Thank you very much for organizing this conference, and I'm really delighted to present one of my papers that I have been working on. So this is the last presentation, so you might be very, very tired. So I'll try my best not to make more tiring. So, okay, let's go. So the name of the project I have been working on is Who Should Be the Leader and Vertical Diversity Based on Nationality and Team Performance. So to motivate you, as you may know, national diversity at the vertical level or especially at the leadership level is currently seen in many organizations. Figure 1 shows kind of the foreign-born CEO in major companies such as Microsoft, Google, or IBM, Nokia, Adobe. Because I am Indian, so I just take out the CEO who belong to India. So this is kind of a very, very anecdotal evidence suggesting that national diversity at the vertical level is currently seen in many organizations. This is not only in the case of, because most of the companies are in the US. This is not only in the case of US. We also see in many other contexts. For example, like Goldman Sachs, like the company set a rules suggesting that it will only underwrite IPOs with at least one diverse board members. Or for example, like Tokyo Stock Exchange updated the corporate governance code, urging the listed companies to make their board more international. And diversity, especially at the gender level and as well as at the nationality level, is kind of a big topic right now in the case of Japan. And it is also not on the case of Japan, like also if you see the case of China also, that is the case. So this is kind of a figure taken from Chen et al. 2009. What they do is that like they survey workers in Chinese farms based in Africa. So what happens is that in the case of the survey, they find that the general labor, especially the blue collar worker, about half of them are from China and half of them are from African origin. However, if they look at the leadership level or the management sources, as you can see, more than 90% are from Chinese and about only 8% are from African origin. So which is suggesting that there is a diversity is noticed and the workers are not necessarily similar to the manager or those who are taking decisions. So considering such kind of anecdotal evidences. So however, one of the problem is that like to best of my knowledge, we have very, very limited empirical evidence, especially rigorous evidence on whether and if so why vertical diversity based on nationality affect performance. Although there is a clear theoretical prediction suggesting that vertical diversity has a both positive and negative, it can affect positively as well as negatively. But in the case of empirical fields, especially on vertical dimension, the evidence is limited. Considering this, my research question in this project is that does national diversity at the vertical level, by vertical level, I mean at the leadership level, affect performance? And the second question I want to answer is that if so, why? If there is some difference, so why and how it is affecting the performance? To give you a very, very nice example, consider like company A and company B. There are like about 6% in a company. And in company A, the leader or the boss, or you can say anything, the monitor, the manager is from the majority group, as you can see. So I just took out the name randomly, in the case of company A, the leader is from the majority group, right? And in the case of company B, the same, there are similar number of people, but the leader, like Dr. Zuckerberg, is from the minority group, right? So because there are about 4 people from India and 2 from other countries, and Mr. Zuckerberg from other country is the leader. So this is kind of the framework I'm thinking of. So to study this question, I studied this in the context of a multi-billion-dollar sports industry in India. So the first question, if I present in front of anyone, they'll ask why sports and why in this context. So what I argue is that there are unique features in the case of examining in this such setting. Why? Because what happens is that, like, if you want to examine the impact of diversity or impact of farm performance, you need to have a substantial number of information, which is generally not available in the case of survey or in the case of farm level surveys or farm level data set. And also performance records are incomplete and not transparent in the case of surveys. However, because we are considering the sports industry, which is unique, is that the performance records are complete and transparent. And no one can just say that, like, this is wrong or this is right? And similarly, if you are considering like sports or, for example, team, each team has similar workers, right? Similar kind of players. For example, like in the case of soccer, you need a goalkeeper, and you need at least one forward, and you need at least one captain, right? So in those contexts, farms or the organizations are similar. So because of such kind of special characteristic, there is a paper published in the Journal of Economic Perspectives in the American Economic Association journals. They say that sports business as a labor market laboratory, where we can, although what could be the external validity may be different, but we can, within such environment, we can test some hypothesis, which is basically difficult to test. For example, like monopsony in the labor market, or like how diversity affect performance. And finally, what we can do is that we can able to study the effect of vertical diversity on multiple performance dimensions. So if we can study in multiple performance dimension, and we can show that, okay, in this dimension, this is the case. Also in this dimension, the results is same. In the similar direction, the results is also same. We can provide a rigorous evidence. And especially, like, we can do, because this is kind of a non-experimental setting, and we are not doing a randomized control trial or some experiments. So we can also analyze through counterfactual exercise, and we can use kind of what is happening and why that is happening, and we can also study the mechanism. Of course, like, because I am working, this study is based on sports, there are limitations. For example, like, how can we get, like, what we get from this paper or from this analysis, how can we validate to the other environment? That could be also the problem. But this is kind of a first step to the research, like, going forward. So with this in mind, my main finding is as follows. The overall effect is that actually national diversity teams on the vertical dimension actually perform worse. There is a negative association. And considering a counterfactual analysis, I find that there is no effect where the role of the leader is not important. It means that if the role of the leader is not important, there is no effect at all. So suggesting that actually that some kind of giving kind of a rigorous evidence. And finally, I go through the channel or mechanism suggesting that actually the effect is negative where the role of the leader is important, especially in the communication and decision-making domain. So this is kind of the main findings. And let's go to the, like, this is my outline of my paper. So in this paper, I consider cricket, which is a sports played in with bat and ball. So this is a sports started in England and spread all over the world during the British Empire. And it is also played in many formats. For this talk, I'll be considering a very specific format, which is played for about like 3 to 4 hours. Although there are some format where it is played for 5 days. I won't take many times to talk about this. So this is kind of a very small format, which is Indian Premier League. It is kind of a Premier League in the cricket. So to give you a very basic comparison with baseball, although I don't have any idea. So the baseball is generally played in kind of like in the left-hand side format, right? And this is kind of a baseball. However, in the case of cricket, it is played in a round field. And the play is done, for example, the batting and bowling is done in the middle of the field. And then the captain, specifically, it has the option to field players anywhere in the field. So there is kind of the captain has a choice, and the captain has to communicate. So as you can understand from this domain, like we can see when the communication or the decision making is not there, for example, like when they're batting, so the communication is with the captain is not there, right? So in that way, we can also think about what is happening in that case when there is kind of a communication is happening when they're fielding and they're catching ball. So how that is happening. Okay, so then with this, so there are 3 standard outcomes. In any sports, there are the first one outcome is whether you win or lose. And the second outcome is the batting, how much run you score. And the final outcome is the bowling, how many wickets you take. Especially those who know baseball, they can so that how many outs you can take. So to give you a very brief background, because this is necessary for this setting. So the role of the captain, I mean by leader, is very, very important in the case of cricket. For example, in the case of soccer, it may not be very, very important, or in the case of baseball, it might be not very, very important. But in the case of cricket, captain has the complete authority over the team once the play starts. And it also takes the responsibility of the outcome. If some team win, the captain takes the responsibility. If some team lose, the captain takes the responsibility. And when there is a batting taking place, like it selects the batting order, but not many kind of communication is happening. And in the case of bowling or pitching, in the case of baseball, so the captain actually select which bowler to bowl, because what is special about this setting, and I study this setting because of this reason, is that a pitcher can only pitch a maximum of 6 balls, and then a next pitcher has to come and they have to pitch the ball, and then next another pitcher, like it goes one by one. For example, in the case of baseball, one pitcher can pitch many balls, so which is very, very important in this setting. So because of this, communication with the pitcher and the fielder to make strategy is very important for the for the captain, because the captain is in the field and it sets everyone. And to give you an overall idea, the role of the captain is not very important during the batting and very, very important during the bowling. In this way, we can differentiate how it is happening. So to give it the data sources, and I get this performance data set of all the matches played in the Premier League in India between 2008 and 2015. And all the players' information and statistics are available officially in the official website, as well as the ESPN website. So for example, like to give you a clue, for example, like there are in this setting, so this captain, and this captain is from foreign countries, and this captain, and this person is from the Indian, because there are majority of the players are Indian. So I consider foreign players, especially the captain, as the diverse team. And this is kind of a very, very descriptive way of saying like how the teams or the organizations are setting the captain. As you can see, in some teams, the captain is here 0 is the captain is only Indian, and 1 is the captain is only foreigner. As you can see, in some team, every time the captain will be Indian, and in some team, half of the time the captain will be foreigner, and half of the time the captain will be Indian. So I use this kind of idiosyncratic variation, because which is very difficult to find in an organization, because if you are comparing some organizations, the leader or the CEO may be foreigner for every time, and in sometimes it will be India, like a native person all the time. And we can also compare excluding this team to show that like if other teams are, the results are remain same. And then Another thing we could think about is that how is there any difference in the appointment of captain by year? Because as you can see, I have the data set from 2008 until 2015. And this graph shows the percentage of captain in a match. As you can see, there is no trend. And overall, about in the 40% of the match, the captain will be a foreigner, and about 60% of the match, the team will be like Indian. So which is very, very important because if we have a trend, for example, like going up or going down, which may be the case in the case of US right now, or in the case of Japan right now, the trend is going up, right? So it is very, very difficult to account for those kind of settings. And then this is kind of like how the captain is appointed by every year. For example, every year, each team plays for 14 or 15 times, and there will be a final match, semi-final match. So as you can see, basically these are the compulsory matches everyone has to play, and these are the optional, like semi-final or final match. So if you go through this point, you can only play. So as you can see, in the case of compulsory matches, almost every time there'll be 40% of the time the captain will be a foreigner, which is suggesting that team are not changing their leader within a year or within a match. And then, so after giving you this kind of example, so this is the simple graphical presentation with outcome and outcome with foreign captain dummy with team fixed effect, match fixed effect, and year fixed effect, and other bunch of measures to control for the in the sports market. And this is kind of a very basic result. With very basic result, and the red part shows the percentage of time a foreign leader or foreign captain has won the match, and the green blue part shows a native captain won a match. As you can see, there is a large difference, which is about 10 percentage point. So this is kind of the main result. And if you do this through a regression analysis, the result is also similar. And if you include only one variable or two variable in the control, and without any including any control, the results remain same. And what is very, very surprising and very, very important is that the magnitude of foreign captain does not change at all, suggesting that other controls what we are including does not matter at all. So as we can see, especially in the case of sports, the losing and winning is kind of a random. On the same day, if some player is much better, the team wins. And as you can see, if there is a foreign captain, they have a negative result. And then one of the concerns in the case of non-experimental setting, like in our setting, is that the endogeneity of the team decision to appoint a captain, as you have seen in the last figures. For example, like weaker teams who are more likely to lose, experiment more and appoint more captains, or other team level on observed characteristics affecting the decision. For example, like the test, because I like foreign captain, so I will appoint foreign captain. So that could be the case. So to do this, what we do in this strategy is that like we will account for those observed characteristics that may be associated with appointment of a captain as our first strategy. And this is the result. What is the result? The first is the result for we exclude the team where there is no foreign captain at all, and the results remain same. And in the second, we exclude the team which are formed later, like after two teams formed in later. So we exclude this team, and the results remain same. And as you have seen, like the compulsory matches, there is a similar, and in the case of semi-final or final matches, they are declining in the number of captains. If we restrict to the first 14 matches, which are compulsory matches, the results are quite similar, suggesting that observable characteristic does not matter. And finally, and second, what we can do is that as an alternative strategy, we can perform a counterfactual exercise where the role of the captain is not important at all. So what is the objective? We want to examine whether our finding is driven by any indirect effect that we do not observe in our analysis. So to do this, as I have said, like batting does not need the communication or there is no importance of captain. I use batting and this is the result. There is no difference at all. And if you do it through regression analysis, the results are similar. And if there is a foreign leader or for Indian or native leader, it doesn't matter at all. And finally, we want to know the mechanism. As I have said, the standard theory of diversity, there's a clear difference between like diversity affects performance in a positive and negative direction. So especially in the case of complementary jobs, it has a positive impact. However, it creates communication cost and other friction in the organization. To do, I provide some evidence consistent with the proposed theory, especially the communication theory. Here is the result, especially the wicket, where the strategy has to be made by the captain. As you can see, there is a positive association for those who are native leaders. And if you do through a regression analysis, the results are same. As you can see, there is a negative result for those if there is the leader is from the foreign. So we provide bunch of robustness checks because sometimes there might be players from different countries, not only the player, but not only the captain, but the player. If you include the number of countries from which players are playing, so the results remain same. And then if you see the captain from, you may think that like captain from specific country may be affecting. As you can see in this case, everything is negative, especially in this win. And like in the case of wicket, all the magnitudes are negative, although not statistically significant because of the number of observations. And in the case of run, it's like going positive, negative, suggesting that there is no clear pattern. And this is my summary. And then what we can learn from this. So what we can learn from this, that we should need to think about the impact of vertical diversity, because there has been no research, especially rigorous research in this field. So although this is kind of a very, very anecdotal evidence, and I'm using a special data set and special setting, which may not be interesting, but we also we need more research in this field, because the main reason is that this phenomenon of vertical diversity is gaining momentum and interest in the real world. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'll be glad if you have any questions or suggestions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Any questions anyone has? May I ask, how about have you seen what happens in other sports that also have a mixture of both natives and foreigners inside?
Yes, because the problem with other sports is that, for example, like in the case of soccer or in the case of baseball, so the role of the leader is not clearly defined. And the role of the leader, like in this domain, the role of a leader is very important. And in this domain, the role of leader is not very important. So in that way, I haven't checked it, but I think that is one of the reasons why the research is not in that frontier, especially in this domain.
I was asking because I was thinking of a sport like rugby, in which the captain also is very important. I don't know if there's maybe research that is related through that sport to what you've been doing, maybe?
I haven't come across any studies until now, so that's it's kind of a nice way to think. Thank you very much.
Oh, can I ask a very simple question?
Yes.
Could you explain the difference between the vertical diversity and horizontal diversity?
Yes, the difference between horizontal diversity and vertical diversity is here. So in the case of organization A, it has a horizontal diversity, right? So there are 6 workers. Within that 6 workers, 5 workers are blue collar workers. 1 is the manager. And there is a kind of the diversity within blue collar workers that is generally called horizontal diversity. And if the manager or the CEO is different from the general team, that is what we call as vertical diversity.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for listening.